Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk coming to you live on a Thursday. Greetings and salutations. Thanks for hanging out with us. We're here with you for the next 3 hours on the sports voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream. You can watch us live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis will be along in a little bit. Brendan Dworzinski is in Fort Smith, Arkansas, or at least he ought to be close by now. He's got Washburn basketball tonight over on our sister station. Your home for the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Washburn against Arkansas Fort Smith in MIAA action. First meeting between the two schools as conference foes. Pre-game coverage starting at 5:15 tonight. The women's game tips off at 5:30. And the men's game follows. That's where Brendan is at tonight. Spencer, like I said, will be along a little bit. And contrary to what I told everybody at the end of yesterday's show, I am Dan Lucero. I see that Vance is making a reference to that in the YouTube live chat already. Signing out yesterday, signing out the show. I said, for Brendan, I'm Spencer. And that was wrong. That was incorrect. Usually it's for Brendan and Spencer, I'm Dan, but there were only two of us on the show yesterday, and I was sprinting to get out, and I got baby brain. I got fighting a cold. Just nothing. None of the wiring is working correctly upstairs over the last 48 hours. So, I said I was Spencer, and now I must face the Am I Spencer allegations. I assure you that I am me. I am Dan. And I am happy to be with you by any name. I'm happy to be with you. And I'm happy you're hanging out with us here today on 580 Sports Talk. Jam-packed Thursday show, as it always is. A guest every hour on today's program. Rick Peterson's going to join us at the bottom of this 3 o'clock hour for the local sports spotlight. We'll get Pistol's thoughts on what's happening in the world of Shawnee County High School sports and Washburn University athletics. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, it's the Big 12 basketball breakdown with CJ Moore. We'll get CJ's insight on red-hot K-State, KU, and the rest of the Big 12 and national college basketball scene. CJ Moore from The Athletic joins us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. Then at 5:25, it's our final conversation of the season with the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. And sure hope we were having a conversation under happier circumstances, but of course, Chiefs coming off of their Super Bowl 59 loss on Sunday. We'll get Mitch's reaction. We'll put a bow on the season that was for the Kansas City Chiefs, and then we'll bid Mitch adieu until training camp. So our last conversation with Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, for this 2024 campaign. That is coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. So we're jam-packed guest-wise on today's show. Other things we want to get to on the program, more and more, you're starting to see people who are leaning in the direction of, I don't know if Travis Kelce is going to play any more football. And we've talked about it a little bit. We touched on it just a bit yesterday. We'll actually play the audio today. Travis Kelce speaking on his own podcast, New Heights, with his brother Jason, about what's going into his decision, whether or not he will return for another season. But Vahe Gregorian of the Kansas City Star wrote today that his gut's telling him that this is the end of the line. And we're not going to force Travis Kelce into retirement ourselves. That's not what we do. But there are some numbers that suggest that whatever happens in 2025, the Chiefs' passing offense needs to begin its search for the new identity of what the passing game is going to be, because a passing game built around Travis Kelce is no longer what it once was, and we'll have some numbers to back that up. But we'll talk a little more about what that future looks like and what that could mean for the Chiefs as far as roster building goes, and how they'll construct the roster 2025 and beyond, if indeed this is curtains for the greatest tight end ever. That's coming up. Also, we're going to talk some Royals baseball today. Last night, I had sat down and put together a whole thing. Here's why the Royals should enter the Alex Bregman sweepstakes. And that was a waste of my time because Alex Bregman signed with the Red Sox last night. So obviously, we're not going to talk about Bregman's fit with the Royals because that's redundant. Also, I know enough Royals fans who still hate the Astros, the whole trash can thing, that I'm not sure signing Bregman would have gone over great anyway. Yeah, I think it's kind of ironic that the team that signed him also had their own sign-stealing scandal of the late 2010s. So he's not going to get booed for that in Boston the next 3 years. That's for sure. But Bregman's off the market. So all the big-ticket guys have been accounted for, pitchers and hitters alike. But are there still additions on the margins that the Royals could make to make their team better? And do they make sense? We'll talk a little bit about that as camp is in full swing. Pitchers and catchers, of course, reporting yesterday to surprise for the Royals. Also, all of the other things you've come to know and love from a Thursday edition of the show. We got sports headlines coming up. Top of the 5 o'clock hour. 2 news stories on what is wrong with you, sponsored by our friend Ryan Mo Winkle, State Farm agent. Coming up bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. We'll play a little either or over under as well as we go along today. And your interaction with the program. We appreciate hearing from you. You text the show, 785-272-9429 is the number, 785-272-9429. You can also join the live chat on YouTube. If you're watching the program on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, there's a live chat on the web browser and the mobile app. And you can interact with us throughout the show, your hosts, and your fellow listeners. It's a great way to be involved with the show throughout the 3 hours of fun that we have. And whether you are a regular in the chat or whether you are new to the chat, we welcome you in. The water's fine, and we appreciate you joining us on the YouTube live chat. We got some regulars in today. See Vance and Paul and Mark H. are in. Also, some relative newcomers, Ryan and McFly Cowboy in the building. Clayton's checking in as well. That's another regular. But anybody who joins the fray, we appreciate you. We appreciate hearing from you here on 580 Sports Talk. And if you're watching the show and maybe you're new to watching it or the live chat, you maybe noticed some things about your hosts or the show. And Ryan asks in the YouTube live chat, noticed a lot of Denver Nuggets gear lately. What's up with that? I knew you were smart the first time I saw you, and that's why I listened. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate that. Flattery will get you everywhere in the YouTube live chat. Second question, Ryan, the Nuggets were my first favorite team as a kid growing up in the Denver area, and so I've always loved them. I loved them since I knew what sports were. That was not a relationship that paid off in a great deal until the Nikola Jokic years. But yeah, Nuggets have always been my team, and they're red hot. 8 wins in a row going into the All-Star break. So happy to have the excuse to mention my beloved red hot 2023 NBA champion, Denver Nuggets. Anyhow, thanks for being part of the show. Let's get into what we wanted to start with today, and that is Travis Kelce and Vahe Gregorian's column at the Kansas City Star is worth reading today. Vahe is always worth reading. He's a legend. But I thought he put it really, really well in his article today at the Star. Quote, for all the personnel moves the team will contemplate and make from free agency through the draft, nothing impending will be more momentous than whether they will have back one of the very best ever to play his position and perhaps the most dynamic element of their culture, not to mention their brand and worldwide appeal. The impact of losing the Swifties is something for another show, right? Like that's for the scenario in which we know that Travis Kelce has retired. What then becomes of the Swifties who got into football the last 2 years? Do they stay on the Chiefs bandwagon? Do they maybe start looking towards some different teams? I don't know. Not my pay grade. But we'll talk about that because there is like a real world impact to this large and unexpected and vast majority female fan base that the Chiefs have attracted the last 2 years. What does it look like if that goes away? What could that lead to as far as the business side of things for the Chiefs? But again, another topic for another day. It's an interesting one, but I think it's another topic for another day. Gregorian's column and also some of the writing of Mike Florio over at Pro Football Talk. Those are the two guys that I've noticed who are writing as if they now expect or think it is more likely than not at this stage. Now, I don't know if that's 70-30, 60-40, 51-49. I don't know. But there are definitely people who are feeling like it is more likely than not that Travis Kelce has played his final game. We teased it a little bit yesterday on the show that Travis Kelce had been on his podcast, of course, the New Heights podcast with his brother Jason, and he talked about the decision that's in front of him. And I think hearing it from him sort of underscores why people are starting to think the way that they're thinking about what might happen with Travis Kelce. And here is that audio from this week's edition of the New Heights podcast. So that was Travis Kelce from the New Heights podcast earlier this week. And man, you hear him say, I think I can play. And it's not a question of him not feeling like his ability is in question to go out and be on the field and catch passes and score touchdowns and those things. I think if Travis Kelce could just show up on Sundays and play football and be in the locker room Monday through Saturday and just do the season stuff, I think he'd do that. I think any player would do that. But the motivation to get your body ready, get your mind ready, everything in your life you have to put on hold. And Travis Kelce's got a lot going on in his life that he's been able to do, but still maybe not engage as much as he could if not for his football career. To have to put all of that on hold to get your body ready to try and climb the mountain again. And like we talked about on yesterday's show, when it was Brendan and I talking about this, what's the carrot on the end of the stick for a guy like Travis Kelce who's accomplished everything? And if there is one thing that maybe drove him last season It was the chance to do something historic and be a part of a three-peat, 3 consecutive championships, be one of one in NFL history. Well, that's gone. You're not getting that back. So now what's the carrot at the end of the stick for a guy like Travis Kelce? The other thing, too, and you hear it in the tone of his voice, that it did pain him to not be the same caliber of player. Like, you look at the numbers on paper, 97 catches, 823 yards, 3 touchdowns. 823 yards, the fewest in a full season of his career, even though the 97 catches are tied for the 4th most he's ever had in a season. 8.5 yards per reception, the fewest of his career, the lowest mark of his career. 3 touchdowns, the lowest mark of his career. Percentage of passes caught was still pretty high at 72.9%, but his yards per target, just 6.2 yards per target. Again, the lowest of his career. And when you get to some of the more advanced numbers, yards per route run, lowest of his career. Yards after the catch, 3.9 yards after the catch per reception. Lowest of his career. There's a metric that ESPN has basically it measures how you're able to get separation from defenders. Call it your open score. Travis Kelce had one of the worst open scores in the NFL. And his overall score on the wide receiver metrics over at ESPN was last because of the deficiencies that he had in yards after the catch. And it would be one thing if this were a player in decline, because you expect that, right? But even the greatest players ever enter decline phases. They happen, and it's clear. We can't, there's no talking around it. Like, all of the numbers point to it. This is a player who's no longer what he once was. The problem that created for the Chiefs this last year is that so much of the passing offense was built around a player who was not up to being the focal point of a passing offense anymore. Travis Kelce got 24% of the target share for the Chiefs this past season. 131 regular season targets. That led the team. And not only did he get 24% of the targets, he got 23% of the Chiefs' receptions. That led the team. And when you look at yards per catch, yards after the catch per reception, all of those things, you can see that the plays that involved Kelce were not super efficient. Certainly weren't explosive. But when the focal point of your passing offense, the guy you're throwing to the most and who is catching the most passes, is not efficient, it drags everything else down about your passing game. That if the passing game felt limited this year, even more limited than it did last year when the wide receivers were so bad, if it felt less explosive than it did last year because the wide receivers were so bad in 2023, it's because the focal point was so diminished. It's a hard pill to swallow for every player. They say that athletes die twice. Every athlete, they die twice. Once is your actual physical death, but the other is when your career ends. And so when players contemplate retirement, it's heavy. It's contemplation of mortality, not just contemplation of, do I get to keep playing football? This is your life. This is your life's work. That's what Chuck Noll always used to call it, right? The old coach of the Steelers. Football is your life's work. It's been Travis Kelce's life's work. And there is such a rich and rewarding life ahead for Travis Kelce on the horizon. He could do comedy. He could do game shows. He could host a talk show like his brother's trying to do. He could just do the podcasting thing and be a backup dancer for his billionaire girlfriend, if that's what he desired. There's so much out there for Travis Kelce to do that weighing that against, I got to go to OTAs. I got to go to camp. And then when I'm not at the facility, I got to be working out and getting my body right, making sure I'm in the shape I need to be in, because the one thing Travis Kelce's not going to do is do it halfway. We had talked, I think it was on Tuesday's show, about The idea of Kelce staying around, but the Chiefs sort of using him in an emeritus tight end role almost. Like the idea that his snap count share, which was at 84% this past season, highest in the season since 2020, by the way. What if that snap count share went down to around 50, 60%? There was a little less Travis Kelce in the offense next year. And then maybe he was a third down option. Maybe he'd come in some 2 tight end sets. But you'd see less of Travis Kelce in 2025, one way or another. But at the same time, he has been so integral to the success of the Chiefs over the years that it's very hard to go to that player and look that player in the eye and say, hey, yeah, take a step back. Take a big step back. We don't need you like we used to need you. That's the kind of thing that makes you wonder, is it worth it to get your body in the shape it needs to get into, get your mind in the place it needs to get to so that you can go and you can play more. So, yeah, I hear that clip, and I do. I hear a player whose mind is already made up, and I think he's trying to figure out if the thought of not playing anymore is too much to bear. I think he is sitting right now. I do. And I am not, I don't live in his head, and I don't retire athletes. The news doesn't pronounce people dead, and sports news doesn't pronounce careers over, right? So I'm not saying that I know this or take it to the bank, blood bank lock, whatever. I hear that clip, though, and I hear a player who has decided, I think I'm done. I think that was it. And I'm going to sit with that in my head for a while. And if that becomes too much for me to deal with, then maybe I will give it one more go. But that sounds like somebody that is close to being at peace with a decision that might already be made. And for the Chiefs passing offense, either way, they have to find a way to reorient itself next year, because being oriented around Travis Kelce was how it shook out last year. Now, I don't know necessarily that was always the way it was meant to be. It sure feels like they were ready to pass the torch to Rashee Rice, right? Like Rice was huge those first 3 weeks. Looked like he might lead the NFL in receiving. It felt like that was who the passing game was going to orient itself around. And you might recall in the 3 games in which Rashee Rice played in full, Travis Kelce had 3 catches for 34 yards on 4 targets, 1 catch for 5 yards on 3 targets, and 4 catches for 30 yards on 5 targets. And then in the next 5 games, after Rashee Rice got hurt early against the Chargers, 9 targets, 10 targets, 5 targets, 12 targets, 16 targets, and then 12 targets against the Broncos. So maybe the solution, what it looks like post-Kelce, was always meant to be Rashee Rice. And again, we'll see how tenable that is next year. We'll see if he's ready to go for training camp for week 1. We'll see if there's any NFL suspension for a violation of the conduct policy. But I don't think the succession plan for Travis Kelce involves finding another Travis Kelce. I think the succession plan involves a guy who's already on the roster and building the passing game around that and getting back to some explosiveness and some efficiency in the passing game as a result. We'll take our first break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, a couple of thoughts from the YouTube comments I want to get to. Also, coming up later this hour, Rick Peterson, TopSports.news, going to join us for the local sports spotlight. That's still to come. We've also got CJ Moore, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, Mitch Holthus at the 5 o'clock hour as well. It's a big show today. We're glad you're with us on 580 Sports Talk. 334 on 580 Sports Talk. A couple of thoughts from the live chat on the YouTube stream. Welcome in on the YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. Paul in the YouTube comment says, I can see Kelce playing one more season / finishing his contract. He certainly would have earned a farewell tour, just can't be the number 1, 2, or maybe even 3 option in the passing game for Kansas City. I feel like it's probably going to be tougher just mentally for the Chiefs to move forward with the idea of, we got to have better options in the passing game than this guy, but he's still here. You know, like a phantom limb. Like, we're trying to figure out how best to build this passing game, and you're not going to be a real big part of it yet. You went through everything you went through to get yourself ready to play. That's tough. That's tough to swallow for both sides, because it is best for the Chiefs, probably. Because we saw last year what it looked like when the passing game was built around Travis Kelce. It just didn't quite work the way that it should have. Darren in the YouTube comments weighs in, says, I still put a lot of the offensive issues on Matt Nagy. Offense has been so different the last 2 years since he has been the offensive coordinator. The thing with the offensive coordinator is, it's not that it's a no-show job, or, you know, you're not actually doing anything as the offensive coordinator under Andy Reid, but the offense is still Andy Reid's. So what you've seen the last 2 years was the same that you saw under Eric Bieniemy, where, yes, there is an offensive coordinator who relays things to the quarterback and who helps the group get prepared for the game plan and helps Andy Reid with the install, but the game plan is still Andy Reid's. So any frustration you've got, it's justified frustration with how limited the Chiefs offense felt this past year, how not explosive it felt, how conservative it felt. That starts with Andy. That starts with him. And some of that is circumstance. Some of it is based on the skill position guys you've got available and your offensive line situation and all of that. But the offense is what the offense is because of Andy Reid. I don't think that... I think people are really hesitant because they like Andy Reid a lot, and who doesn't, to put any of the blame on him in a situation like that. And it's easy to point at something that has changed the last 2 years and say, well, yeah, the Chiefs offense hasn't been good the last 2 years. Well, here's what else happened the last 2 years. Kelce got old, number one. Number two, last year, the wide receiver group was a train wreck. This year, you lost wide receiver 1 4 games in, and your best wide receiver was a rookie who didn't really hit the ground running until late in the season, which, again, that's forgivable from a rookie, right? That's kind of how it went for Rashee Rice last year, right? And this year, your offensive line was a mess. And you just had no explosive players. I think the offense looks a little different if they can add some explosion as playmakers. And I think a second season for Xavier Worthy will help. And if Rashee Rice is back, I think that will help. But yeah, it certainly all circles back to the version of Travis Kelce we see now cannot be the sun in the Chiefs passing game. You can't revolve around it like you used to. Has to be something else. And then the question comes back to Travis Kelce. Like, are you going to put yourself through everything you put yourself through to get ready for a season and then show up to camp and now you're getting 50% of the snaps? You're so obviously diminished. It's like asking a guy who was a middle of the lineup slugger for a decade, a 30 homer, 100 RBI a year guy. It's like asking him to be, you're gonna be the 8-hole on this team, and you're gonna play like you're gonna be a strict platoon guy. You're only gonna play against left-handed pitching. You're gonna play once or twice a week. That's tough. That's a tough pill to swallow. Vance asks, and I'll deal with this too. That's more aggressive than I meant for it to sound. But Vance in the YouTube comments asked this question: do I hear you saying that the game is possibly passing Coach Reid by? No. That's not what I'm saying, Vance. Here's what I would say. I would say that because of how limited the Chiefs' personnel was, Andy Reid reverted to some things that he used to revert to when he was the head coach in Philadelphia and got criticized for it a lot. He reverted to some habits that were a little overly conservative, and certainly in the Super Bowl reverted to the, oh my God, run the ball, dude, kind of coach that he used to be back in the day. That was a bad time to bring back, well, run the dang ball, Andy. We say that a lot, right? You remember that. So I don't think that the game is passing Andy Reid by. I don't. I don't think that at all. I still think he's innovative. I still think as a game planner, as a guy who can prepare a team to play, no parallels. But I do think that things sped up and the Chiefs got slower. I think that's the way to put it about the Chiefs offense. The league got faster and a little bit more physical, and the Chiefs offense got a little bit slower. Got a little bit slower this year. And we saw the results of that. We got to take a timeout. Rick Peterson's going to join us for the local sports spotlight coming up on 580 Sports Talk. We expect to be joined momentarily by Rick Peterson, TopSports.news. Joins us every Thursday at this time for the local sports spotlight. Pistol covers all things Shawnee County High School sports and Washburn athletics at TopSports.news and joins us every Thursday here on this program. Pistol, you saw a couple of really good high school basketball games on Tuesday night. Shawnee Heights and Seaman. And though Seaman won both games, it was two barn burners and four of the best teams in the city, boys and girls, doing battle in the UKC on Tuesday night. What'd you observe?
Well, in the girls' game, Seaman just had a really, really good first half and kind of took control. And then, Heights really came back and actually outscored them a little bit in the second half. But that first half just kind of carried them. And then the boys, I tell you what, it went back and forth. And I'm not sure, but Seaman really came up with some big plays down the stretch. I'm not sure how many times a team wins when they give up 39 point performance to the other team. But Seaman found a way.
Yeah, Jared Sanchez with 39 in that losing effort for Shawnee Heights. And I'll get to them in a second. But the Seaman boys have been, I think, probably the biggest surprise in the area this year. I would say one of the biggest surprise for certain is they were not a team. I mean, we knew going into the year when we looked at the 5A crop of schools in the city, we knew Highland Park would be real good. And here they are undefeated, number one in 5A. We knew Shawnee Heights, who went to state last year, had a chance to be really good. We weren't really talking about the Seaman Vikings, but Craig Cox put together another winner. What impresses you about this Vikings boys team?
Well, I knew they could be good because basically Briar Finley last year missed the whole season. He played a few games early, and then he had back injury and missed the rest of the season. Now, one, he was back. Two, he was coming off just a monster football season, so I knew he'd go in with some momentum, and he has. And he's just a really good complement for Kayvon Bonner, who we knew was really good and has been. But then they've also added some pieces. They've just had some pieces that have really helped them be competitive. And especially with them being out west, I think they have a really, really good chance to make it to 5A state.
As for the Seaman girls, they remain undefeated, one of only 5 girls basketball teams in the state of Kansas without a blemish. And, we talked about them early in the year. What was it going to take? And we talked about, are they going to be able to develop some depth? That doesn't necessarily happen. They're a fairly short bench, 6 or 7 deep, but their starters just keep getting better and better, it seems like.
Oh, yeah. And I think they do have some players they can use. They just really haven't had to them. They usually go regularly about 7 or 8 deep. But, you got some really good athletes on that bench that I think they could use if they need to. Ryan Miller's playing some quality minutes for them. Kara Beaton's playing some quality minutes for them. And then I think there's some other girls over there that could play. But like you said, their starters are so good, and they just continue to, all 5 of those are capable of coming up and having big games on a given night.
Rick Peterson of TopSports.news, our guest here on the local sports spotlight on 580 Sports Talk. As for Shawnee Heights, the other half of that doubleheader you saw on Tuesday night, we're going to get a look at Shawnee Heights tomorrow night in our 580 Preps game of the week. Shawnee Heights at home against DeSoto in United Kansas Conference action. Should be 2 really good games there.
Yes.
Just a minor bump in the road for the Shawnee Heights boys team. I mean, they're 13-3, and Jared Sanchez seems to have leveled up even more from last year. He was one of the most prolific scorers in the city, and now he's doing it again this year and really lifting a group that's really deep and most nights playing the way that Ken Darding wants them to play.
Yeah, and, Jarrett and Deacon Pomeroy give them a great 1-2 punch. What they need to develop going forward into crunch time and to be able to make a run at state is just get a little more scoring balance from the other players on that team. And they have the weapons. They just got to kind of need to get some people involved offensively. They don't need to get you 15 or 20, not with Sanchez and Pomeroy getting you about 50, but they need to get that 8 to 10 points from some other players, and they'll be fine. I really also like the Shawnee Heights girls. Kind of the same thing there. You're going to get a bunch of points out of KK Emmett, and then I think Cadence Torres and Rihanna Vega are very, very capable players, and I think they'll be fine going forward. Like I said, they played a really good second half the other night. It's just they got down 17 at the half.
Another team I wanted to ask you about, we're talking high school basketball, Rick Peterson at TopSports.news. Washburn Rural, 5-0, their first pass through the Centennial League. They've got 5 games left, all against Centennial League foes. They beat Manhattan soundly at home on Tuesday night, a 29-point win over Manhattan. Did you expect that Alex Hutchins's Junior Blues would be quite this good? They're 11-4. They got a chance to host a sub-state in 6A.
Yeah, and I thought they'd be good. I'm not sure I knew they'd be this good. I do know, last year when they got off to such a tough start, then they came back and had a really good second half. Early they were without Amari Jones, and then you've added a really good player in Simon Rowley, and that's really helped them. And the other, Ballard and John Hoytel and those, they got a good front line going. They have a really good big game coming up with Junction City, who they've already beat once, and I think I think they're going to keep rolling.
Pistol, let's shift our focus from one kind of hardwood to a different kind of hardwood, the one on the bowling lanes. The Topeka City Bowling Championships were last Friday. On the boys' side, we saw a repeat winner, and that's not an easy thing to do in a sport like bowling, where you might be the best to just not have your best day on the day of the competition. But Logan Glinka wins his second straight City Boys Championship, and he and Washburn Rural seem headed towards another strong finish in 6A.
Yeah, they could be, and the thing is, last year they were rolling, and like you talked about, some days you're going to have a bad day. Well, they had a bad day at regionals and didn't even qualify as a team, so they obviously want to wipe that bad taste out of their mouth, and I think they got the depth to do that. Glenka's amazing. I mean, last year he goes 729 at City. This year he goes 734 at City. And anybody that knows bowling knows that 700 series aren't easy to come by. So I think they're seeming to be hitting their stride.
On the girls' side of the City Bowling Championships, it was a freshman who won the individual championship. Siemens' Kayla Duncan bowled a 623 and helped the Vikings win City for a second straight year. We know that there's a lot of depth in terms of talent on those City girls teams. You can never rule any of them out when regionals and state come along. But which girls team do you think is maybe in the best position as the season comes down to it?
Well, I think Siemens. I think Siemens really bowling well, and they go 1-2 at City. After I know that Paige Snyder got second this year after winning it last year as a freshman, and so there's a good 1-2 right there. Washburn Rural girls are going to jump up there. They didn't have a particularly good City meet, but I think they're going to be a contender again. And both those teams earned state hardware a year ago.
Couple more questions for Rick Peterson of TopSports.news. This is the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. We do it every Thursday at this time. I wanted to turn attention to Washburn basketball. Each got home wins, the men and the women, against Central Missouri on Saturday. What was most impressive to you, particularly about the women, who kind of turned an early result on its ear and were able to go out and beat a tough Central Missouri team?
Yeah, and I think that was very important for them to bounce back from an earlier loss to the Jennies. And, we know what Yabari Wadada can do. Peyton Sturck has just given them another really, really good score. One of the nation's, in my mind, best 3-point shooters. And that's really helped them to step up. They've already equaled last year's win total. And now they just want to keep going.
And lastly, Pistol, mentioned our 580 Preps game of the week. This tomorrow night will be Shawnee Heights at home against DeSoto in girls and boys basketball. What other events in the city will you have a keen interest in as this weekend approaches?
Well, we got a ton of regional wrestling, regional girls wrestling on Saturday. We got teams all over the place. I'll be at Seaman for the 5A regional, and we're getting down to postseason. Centennial League swimming's going on today. We're getting to that point where it's really, really busy, but really, really fun.
And you can read all about it every day at TopSports.news, an essential daily visit for all things Shawnee County High School sports and Washburn University athletics. Rick Peterson covers it like nobody else, and he joins us every Thursday here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you very much.
That is Rick Peterson. We will step aside for a quick timeout. When we come back, we will wrap up the 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. 3:56 on 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Rick Peterson, TopSports.news, for joining us. Another reminder that tomorrow we'll have high school basketball, 580 Preps Game of the Week, coming your way from the Birdcage, as we like to call it, at Shawnee Heights High School, home of the Thunderbirds. Shawnee Heights hosting DeSoto in girls and boys basketball. DeSoto girls ranked 7th in Class 5A. Shawnee Heights girls knocking on the door of the top 10. Shawnee Heights boys also in the top 10 in Class 5A, taking on a always tough DeSoto team. Two teams split the matchups in DeSoto earlier this year. The Heights girls lost. The Heights boys won. So it should be two hotly contested games. Hope you'll join myself and the coach, Larry Latimer, for all the action tomorrow night, starting at approximately 5:30 with pregame. Though, as Spencer Dupuis has learned, that approximation
very approximate
is very much an approximation some nights. Look, I didn't know we were going to get the best JV basketball game I've ever seen at the Charger Dome last Friday. It didn't even go overtime. It was just long because it was great.
That's crazy.
Like, teams are calling timeouts, strategizing. Like, that was a legitimately excellent JV game, and I enjoyed watching it. But yeah, you had to stretch like Mo Vaughn at first. Painful stretch sometimes, but yeah, we'll have that tomorrow night here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, we'll talk to CJ Moore of The Athletic for our Big 12 basketball breakdown. We'll also bring you 2 news stories on what is wrong with you. But first, we're talking baseball. Are there any moves left for the Royals to make that could make them better? We'll discuss some ideas coming up on the next hour of 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. And a hello to everybody watching on our video stream. We are live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. Dan Lucero and Spencer Dupuis with you until 6 o'clock tonight. Brendan Wierzinski's getting wound up for some Washburn basketball. The Ichabods making the southeast swing in the MIAA, heading for the first time to Arkansas Fort Smith for tonight's action. Quick, who's the Arkansas Fort Smith mascot?
The Fighting somethings.
They are the Lions.
Oh.
Yeah, just the Lions. No fighting or running just the Lions. So one of two Lions is in the MIAA. Missouri Southern being the other. Anyhow, Washburn basketball tonight over on our sister station, your exclusive home for the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Brendan's got the pregame at 5:15, tip-off of the women's game at 5:30, and the men's game to follow. No game action tonight here on 580 WIBW, but stay tuned at 7 o'clock for the Jerome Tang Show on the K-State Sports Network. Stay tuned on the show today. We're going to talk a little Royals baseball this hour. Who's still out there on the free agent market? The biggest fish found a boat last night. Alex Bregman to the Red Sox on a 3-year deal. But who else is available that could actually help the 26-man Royals roster? In the process, we'll give you our first 26-man roster prediction. Also, we got 2 new stories to compete on What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by State Farm agent Ryan Mo Winkle. And CJ Moore from The Athletics going to join us at the bottom of this hour to talk some hoops on the Big 12 basketball breakdown. We'll get CJ's thoughts on K-State, KU, everything else going on in the Big 12, maybe even some national college basketball as well. It's always fun to talk hoops with a true ball knower like CJ Moore from The Athletic. That's coming up at the bottom of this hour. Mitch Holthus still to come later on the show. Our final convo of the year with Mitch. He'll join us at 5:25 on the show today. You can join us on the show via the text line. We'd love to hear from you. 785-272-9429 is the number. That's 785-272-9429. You can also comment in the live chat. We want to hear from you. Today, if you are watching on YouTube, there is a chat feature on the web browser or the mobile app. And so if you are watching on our 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel, jump in the chat, interact with us, interact with your fellow listeners throughout today's show. Before we get to the Royals and what it's going to look like in 2025, have you seen the slogan?
Yes, I have.
So the slogan for the Royals, like last year was "Welcome to the City," right? They got a new one every year. Always Royal, together Royal, forever Royal. All of those. Some remembered more fondly than others. This year, per the social media post from the Royals, they're one of a handful of major sports teams, but I think like 28 of the 30 Major League Baseball teams have Blue Sky accounts now. But this was also on X as well. X, the everything app. It all happens on X. Send money on X. Royals on social media. We're proud to rep the city of Fountains. And this season, the intensity is up, the vibes are up, and we're turning the hashtag Fountains Up. That's the slogan this year. Fountains Up. What do we think, Spence?
I like it.
I think I do too. I think I do. I like it better than Welcome to the City because that could have been any city. Like all baseball teams play in the city,
like New York City.
Yeah, it's like
come on.
Yeah, there's no team that like plays in a town or a hamlet or a village. You know, they all play in a city. So yeah, that was a little bit generic to me. Fountains Up though. I mean, I guess there are other stadiums with fountains. Like Coors Field has fountains, but only one team plays in the Fountain City, and only one team was first to have the fountains in the ballpark. So you still, I think, broadly speaking, associate fountains with the K and with the Royals. So Fountains Up is the slogan for the Royals this year. Love to know what you think about it. 785-272-9429. You can weigh in on the live chat as well in the YouTube comments. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. I'm a little surprised the Rockies didn't beat them to this, to be honest with you. They had a play-by-play announcer, Jenny Cavnar, who used to use Fire Up the Fountains as her home run call. She's not with the Rockies anymore. And
She's
I think
the Athletics now,
yes,
right?
yes.
Or the A's.
They are the Sacramento Athletics. We are not going to humor Major League Baseball and say, oh, they're just the Athletics this year. We're not going to refer to them by the city in which they're playing. It's so embarrassing. Major League Baseball just never ceases to embarrass itself. They are the Sacramento A's. That is where they are playing their home games. They are the Sacramento A's. You don't have to call them that. I'm going to. It will be the editorial position of 580 Sports Talk that the Sacramento A's are the team that was formerly the Oakland A's. Anyhow, fountains up for the Royals. That is their slogan this year. We sort of discussed this yesterday when it was Brendan and I on the show, talking about who's still left on the free agent market and might be something like an upgrade for the Royals at free agent, because it's not hard still to upgrade the lineup. If you look at last season's performance by this Royals lineup, they had some of the worst production in baseball in all three outfield positions and at third base. It would not be hard to find upgrades offensively if the Royals really wanted to. But before we get to who's left, who's actually going to make the team? And I was going through this, and honest to goodness, I think the pitching staff's pretty well set.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a lot of drama outside of who's going to start as the number 5 in the rotation and who's going to lose that battle and end up in the bullpen. And right now, it sounds like it's Chris Bubich and Alec Marsh. And Marsh is a little behind, I guess, dealing with a little shoulder issue, which you never like to hear. Like, first day of pitchers and catchers, hey, hooray, everyone's here. This is wonderful. And, oh, yeah, this pitcher's got like eight screws in his elbow. It's not 8, but James MacArthur had 2 screws put in his right elbow this offseason.
Yeah.
Also, Alec Marsh, it was right shoulder tightness. Might be delayed slightly facing hitters, but he is throwing every day. That's from Ann Rogers yesterday, Royals beat writer for MLB.com. So that might give an edge to Bubich there as far as earning that final slot in the rotation, but I think whoever doesn't win that rotation slot is probably going to start in the bullpen. If they carry 13 pitchers, and it's not really an if, every team carries 13 with the 26-man roster. I got 4 lefties, Cole Reagans, Chris Bubich, Angel Zerpa, Sam Long, and I got 9 right-handers. Seth Lugo, Michael Wacha, Michael Lorenzen, Alec Marsh, Lucas Erceg, Carlos Estevez, Hunter Harvey, John Schreiber. People are going to be mad when I say this one. Chris Stratton. Stratton.
Yeah, who else do you have at this point? Like, you have 3 options, but I don't think you're going to – I think that's the best option.
So it feels like Stratton's the guy who makes the team, and if he doesn't perform, they'll be more than happy to walk away from him. Honestly, if somebody outpitches him, like if Carlos Hernandez or James MacArthur have a really great spring, or if there's another young arm that they really like has a great spring, they might look at that $4.5 million they owe Chris Stratton and say, yeah, you know what? Thanks, but no thanks. But I mean, there's a reason they gave him 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Like the plan was to have him on the team in 2025. So here he is. I think those are your guys. I think that's the 13. Like Daniel Lynch is knocking at the door in some kind of role, but I think that might be more valuable to have as your 6th or 7th starter down at AAA. Same with Kyle Wright coming off the major shoulder surgery. Carlos Hernandez, I mentioned. James MacArthur, I mentioned. Those are guys. I think they've got options. I could be wrong on Carlos Hernandez. I could be wrong. He could be out of options. And if he's out of options, then you either keep him or you have to, leave him off the 40-man, expose him to waivers. He might be out of options. I don't know where you would find that information. I used to know, used to be really easy to find that information. I don't think it is anymore. But I think he might be out of minor league options, which would be sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes the best thing you can be is out of options because the team will say, well, you're too talented to lose. They'll look at a guy like Hernandez and say, yeah, we love your 100-mile-an-hour fastball. We want to keep you around and see if we can't maybe figure it out one more time. But I really wish I could find that information.
Yeah, I couldn't. I just looked it up.
Yeah, it's hard to find, man. It's really. Let's see if the depth chart, MLB depth charts, has it. Where is Carlos Hernandez? No options left. Yeah, so Hernandez and Long are out of options. This is so helpful. Thank you, Fangraphs. Thank you, MLB depth charts. Carlos Hernandez out of options. So if he makes the team, if he's going to make the team, that would assumably mean that somebody else doesn't. Maybe that's Alec Marsh gets option to stay working as a starter, and they use Stratton as the long reliever. I could get behind that, I guess, if Stratton's got to make the team. But yeah, Sam Long and Carlos Hernandez are your guys right now who do not have any minor league options. Like Marsh has an option, Lynch has an option, and a lot of times that's what makes the decision, right? That's where you draw the line. So, but either way, I gave you 17 names. The 13 guys who are going to break camp are on that list of names. On the position player side, there are 10 guys who are stone cold locks, absolutely going to make the team. Salvador Perez and Bobby Witt Jr. and Vinny Pasquantino, congratulations. You guys make plans for Kansas City. I think those kids are going to make it. Freddie Fermin is going to make the team. Michael Massey. Michael Garcia, I think, makes the team. Jonathan India, obviously. Kyle Isbell's going to be your opening day center fielder. Hunter Renfroe still on the squad. MJ Melendez makes it. That's 10. That leaves you 3 open spots for the likes of, and I wrote these in alphabetical order. Kevin Biggio's a non-roster guy who I actually like to make the team. I think he's gonna stick one of those utility spots. Dairon Blanco, Harold Castro is another non-roster guy. I've lived that nightmare as a Rockies fan. I went through that, so hopefully you don't have to go through that. Nick Prado is another guy. Nelson Velasquez could make it. Drew Waters is still remaining on the roster. Joey Weimer is another guy. Again, options are important to know here. Weimer and Waters have an option. Nick Prado doesn't. Nick Prado doesn't make the team. That might be the last you see of him. Nelson Velasquez, same deal. So that might be Velasquez's ticket to the bench.
For people asking, what about the rising star, Jack Caglione, who's invited to camp?
Don't think he's going to make the team. I don't think, and that's not a knock on him. That's just he needs another year in the minor leagues.
Still green.
Yeah, he still needs another year in the minor leagues. Stranger things have happened, but I would be very, very surprised if he's under serious consideration to make this roster. So, anyway, if I had to guess right now, like right here, right now, today, who's going to make the roster of those guys, it would be, I guess you'd lean toward the guys with no options. You'd lean toward Prado and Velasquez, and then Blanco's got all his options. I still think they need Biggio because I think they need a left-handed bat, but maybe Prado's that guy. If moving him to the outfield is working, I don't know. Anyhow, I say all that to say that's not a real encouraging. It does not feel like that group is so much better offensively than last year's group, and this year's group needs to be better offensively to account for the fact that you're probably not getting another 9.5 WAR season from Bobby Witt. And I don't say that as, the last year was a fluke. Bobby Witt Jr. is still going to be great. He can be great and be a 7-win player. He can win an MVP if he's a 7-win player. Usually that's an MVP season. He's a 9.5 win player. So if there's even a slight step back from Bobby Witt Jr., he's still a top 10 player in the game. But you need those wins, those extra wins. Where are those going to come from? Jonathan India going to recoup all of that value just by himself? I don't think so. There's still some places where there could be upgrades for the Royals. So I got to thinking about, okay, well, who's left? The guy with the highest weighted runs created plus from last season, who's still a free agent, is David Peralta. And that should tell you everything you need to know about how slim these pickings are. David Peralta, OPS 750 in 91 games for the Padres last year. He's 36. He can't really move.
I was going to say the age is the biggest concern for me.
Yeah, like
this isn't 2018.
He can't really move. Wichita wingnut great, David Peralta, by the way, from the indie leagues to the minor leagues, to the major leagues, and a nice career. He's won a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger. I just I don't think he can move in the corners. I don't think that's realistic. JD Martinez, same thing. Like the bat's obviously there, but he'd have to DH. And the Royals DH at bats are accounted for. Mark Canna's kind of the same deal. And Canna and Hunter Renfroe are kind of, redundant, because they each do the same thing. They hit lefties. I'm a hard no on Joey Gallo at Kauffman Stadium. I'd love to see a team in a smaller ballpark take a flyer on him because he does still hit home runs, but I don't think you sign only home runs guy to play at Kauffman Stadium. Paul DeYoung is still out there. Possibility of a reunion there. Whit Merrifield, come on home, baby. Whit, no? Any takers?
What about Robbie Grossman?
Robbie Grossman is still out there. Again, a little bit redundant. All he does is hit lefties.
Yeah.
And I think they've got Renfroe for that. Two guys I think legitimately that JJ Piccolo could call and that they would be actual upgrades on what the Royals have in house. One is Justin Turner. Justin Turner is still a free agent.
That's crazy to me.
Justin Turner, OPS 737 last year for Toronto and Seattle. The power's about gone. He hit just 11 home runs and 539 at bats. So it should be noted, Seattle, not a great home run park, and he spent 48 games there. Hit 24 doubles, still can get on base. We talked about it when they added India. We talked about it all offseason when we talked about what the Royals need to add. Guys who can get on base. Justin Turner's on-base percentage last year was .354. I believe, other than Bobby Witt Jr., that would have led the Royals. So even as he approaches 40.
He is 40.
He is 40. He's not approaching. He is 40 years old.
That's what I was going to say. It's crazy to me that he's still in the league. Like, he's still playing. He
can still hit. Can you stand him up at third base every day? I don't think you can.
No.
I don't think you can. Like, as much as I like the bat, this is probably, again, just a bat. And the Royals DH at bats between Fermin and Perez and Pasquantino are spoken for. And it's not a weakness. It's not something where, they need to upgrade. They need to give, more bats to this guy. So I thought about Justin Turner. That's a no. The other guy I thought about was Alex Verdugo. Played for the Yankees last year, spent his the previous 4 years with the Red Sox. He was terrible last year. He was getting booed at Yankee Stadium. Hit just 233, 291 on base, 647 OPS. But he'd been a league average hitter or better each of the last 5 seasons. Not a big power guy, not a super fast guy, but a decent defender, has a good arm, and is left-handed, crucially, so you could platoon him with Hunter Renfroe in right field, if that's the direction you're going in right field. So I throw all these names out there to say, yeah, I kind of understand if the Royals are content to stand pat. Like, there are better hitters available. Like, the Royals just need offense. They are a bat short, but I understand looking at who's out there and saying, man, we're sacrificing too much in run prevention. And that's also who the Royals are. I think the Royals are a team that skew more towards run prevention than they are towards run scoring. They bolstered their bullpen. They've got an outstanding starting pitching rotation, and they've been very good defensively with guys like Kyle Isbell and Michael Garcia, who maybe don't hit but are good defenders. Michael Massey's a good defender, and his bat has gotten better. So I think they're probably done, but I guess the big question is, where do they stick Jonathan India? Is he going to be third base or is he going to be left field? And I think it has to be third base.
Yeah.
Because the only thing you can tell me that would make it make sense that you did not go out and add a corner outfield bat is that you want to give it one more go with MJ Melendez. And honestly, I'm okay with that for a couple of months. You have to be decisive if it's not working and go work the trade market, because you can't waste a contention year. Like, if you're in the thick of it, if the Royals find themselves in the same spot where they were last year, second or third place through the middle of the summer, in a wild card spot, but the Central's winnable, but you got 2 corner outfielders out there giving you like 20% below average major league offense, you got to be aggressive. You got to go make a move, and you got to go replace that guy. But if they still think Melendez can be an upgrade on what he was last year and get better in his 4th year as a big leaguer, then that makes a little more sense to me. If that is their strategy, like, I don't know how successful that's going to be, but I can at least see the vision there, right? And that's all I ask for. I at least want to see the vision. As long as I can see the vision, I'm not going to complain.
It's crazy. They're essentially all but really one spot. They're running it back.
Yeah, I mean,
All but adding India.
Yeah, on
They're-
offense. Yeah,
They're all but running it back.
it's the same. Yeah, it's the same guys, and
Yeah.
it's the same guys that weren't good enough and like scored 2 runs in their last 7 home games of the season, and you understand why if there is some concern. You understand why there is concern about this team's ability to get it done on offense. Why you would scour that free agent list and think, God, they can't find anybody they can plug in that could be even just average. But I don't see the fit, because right now the guys who are left, they're DH types. That's why I still think they should call on Nolan Arenado. I really do.
Yeah.
John Maziliak, the Cardinals GM, says they're moving forward as though Arenado's going to be on their team this season. He clearly doesn't want to be there. Get him to a winner. The Royals are going to be a winner. Make the call, John Sherman. Bring him across I-70. Bring him closer to his real home of Denver. Bring Nolan Arenado to me. Bring him to me. I want him back. I want to be closer to Nolan Arenado playing his home games. Bring him to me, John Sherman. Get me Nolan Arenado. I don't know what you're going to have to do to make it work financially, but that's why you hire, Ivy Leaguers to your front office. Real quick question from Vance in the YouTube comments. Watching on YouTube 580 Sports Talk. There's always one player that breaks through in spring training. Which one do you think it will be? It's hard to say, but I'll tell you what, I could see it being one of those outfielders with no options. Nelly Velasquez or Nick Pratto. I could see one of those guys having a monster spring and making it really, really hard to keep them off the 26.
Did I see that Velasquez has totally changed his swing? Is that what I think?
Melendez has.
Or Melendez.
Yeah, it's
Melendez.
Yeah, Melendez has redone his stance. He's a little bit more upright.
No big leg kick.
The thing that drives me nuts with Melendez, it's like he doesn't see the pitch. There are so many times he swings like through center cut fastballs. If he can stop doing that, that's a hard thing to stop doing when you're, 4 years into your major league career. At some point, it just becomes who you are. But a little bit more contact in the zone would take MJ Melendez from a below average offensive player to an average offensive player. And if he's an average offensive player, that's enough of an upgrade that I think you can play him. I think he becomes then playable in left field. But he's got to get there. And frankly, I think this year is probably his last chance to get there. We'll take a break, come back, do What Is Wrong With You next on 580 Sports Talk. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. 2 new stories today fighting to take down our current weekly champion. Fart me through the phone. The woman in Wales who sent videos of her passing gas to her ex's new fling. Wild move. Spencer, you've got it first.
Yes, if I can fix my microphone here. But we're going back to Florida. The Lee County Sheriff's Office is investigating a bizarre incident that unfolded in San Carlos Park, where a man riding a lawnmower destroyed multiple mailboxes along Robin Road last Friday afternoon. Neighbors, including Matt Clardy, whose mailbox was among the victims, are still in disbelief after witnessing the unusual scene. Quote, "It was egregious, absolutely disgusting, but it's so funny. I can watch it 100 times because guess what? It was caught on camera on a bunch of people's Ring cameras." One neighbor even said he wanted the driver to be held accountable, obviously. Neighbors reported the lawnmower rider left behind a Pittsburgh Steelers hat and a pair of sunglasses.
Mike Tomlin, no!
Deputies are currently working to identify the responsible party for the bizarre vandalism spree. As the investigation continues, the residents are hopeful that the man will be caught and held accountable for his actions.
Man, shout out Matt Clardy. Like, yeah, my mailbox might have bit the dust, but it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Man, he is like falling off of he's on the back. It is really funny. We're watching the video now.
Yeah.
They're not lying. He wasn't lying. This is really funny. Holy cow. Hold on. I gotta get a screen grab. He's tail over tea kettle on this thing.
He's got to be drunk, right?
All right, if you're watching on the YouTube, we're gonna throw up a screenshot of this guy smashing the mailbox. Can't play the video, but you can see on the screenshot. You see where his feet are. His feet are level with the mailbox. He goes sprawling out over the top of the mailbox. Man, yeah, Matt was right. That is extremely funny. I could watch that 100 times.
He's got to be drunk, right? You saw him trying to get up.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely hammered. No doubt about it. Yeah, we'll see if they find him. All right, for my story today, we go to Fort Pierce, Florida, and we encounter a woman who attacked a man, her husband, with, we'll use the old-fashioned term, with a marital aid. She was arrested for domestic battery. Cops were dispatched Sunday to a Fort Pierce residence in reference to a disturbance in progress involving a 52-year-old man and 50-year-old Julissa Negron, who was staying with him while she gathered clothing before relocating from Puerto Rico to Connecticut to start her life over. Negron and the victim were married in Connecticut in 2003. Negron was drinking alcoholic beverages, according to the police, and started arguments about who the victim follows on Instagram. At one point, Negron allegedly began to get in the victim's face, which he believes was to antagonize him. When the man warned that he would dial 911, Negron pulled out the marital aid and began to hit the victim with it. When I say marital aid, you maybe know what I am talking about. Again, that's a really old-fashioned term for it.
A shaky thing.
But let's just say, when it comes to the use of these, there are dill-do's and there are dill-don'ts, and I would describe this as a dill-don't. When cops arrived at the man's home, he warned that Negron was inside naked and would flash officers. She was reportedly agitated, disorderly, and smelled of alcohol. Arrested at the scene, subsequently on a misdemeanor battery count. Who we got today?
I don't know.
So when
I saw your story was in there, I was like, this is gonna be hard to beat.
So the marital aid story is very funny, but also, like, your story is just more of the slapstick element, which I really, really like. Yeah. I guess the question is, do either of them beat Fart Me Through the Phone?
I don't know.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
There's no like, I gotta say, I'm gonna stick with Fart Me Through the Phone as our weekly winner.
We'll stay with that.
Yeah, I think both of these stories are really good. We'd call it a draw for today, but I don't think either of them beat a woman putting the phone on her backside and just blowing ass repeatedly and sending it to, like, that is terrorism is what that is. That is terrorism. We're going to take a break. When we come back, CJ Moore will join us for the Big 12 Hoops Breakdown on 580 Sports Talk. We are pleased to be joined by the best college basketball feature writer in America. CJ Moore covers college hoops for The Athletic. You can find him across social media and his handle CJ Moore Hoops. You can check him out on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline every Thursday here on 580 Sports Talk. CJ, have you seen anything quite like this transformation that Kansas State has gone under over their last 6 games, going from a team that was basically dead in the water to, over their last 6 games, maybe the best team in America?
I've been trying to rack my brain thinking about it, like thinking about a example that kind of fits. And I mean, the best I can come up with is like NC State was pretty mediocre last year and then went on that crazy postseason run through the ACC tournament and then to the Final Four. This one's happening just kind of a month earlier. But it's hard to, I can't think of another team that, I mean, what were they, 1-6 in the Big 12 and then just suddenly catch fire like this in conference play. I'm not sure there's a comp.
What do you think is the biggest reason this hasn't been able to happen? If there's a player or if it's coaching or if there's any one thing that has enabled this, what would you pinpoint it as?
I think it's mostly just guys kind of buying in to their roles, starting to play way harder, chemistry kind of coming together. But the one that's probably the biggest difference maker is Doug McDaniel, and like his speed is his elite skill, and I think they figured out ways to really take advantage of that, and he's kind of for whatever reason they weren't probably getting the best out of him early, and he's really come on during this stretch, and that's helped a lot. And then the other guy, Max Jones. I think has played pretty well through this, and he was okay before this, but he's been pretty consistent, especially shooting the ball, giving them another really consistent shooter who's making a few shots every game. But I mean, you can go up and down the line. I mean, but basically every guy has played his best basketball. David's been awesome. Like everyone's just kind of come together at the right time, and they're getting the best out of every single guy.
CJ Moore is our guest, covers college basketball for The Athletic, joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Big 12 basketball breakdown. On the flip side, we have Kansas, who lost to K-State on Saturday at Bramlage Coliseum. Now they rebounded for a routine win over Colorado on Tuesday night. No, not the blowout that maybe the numbers or the folks in the desert would have expected, but back on track with a win. Is this team right now a little bit hamstrung by the fact that they're just not getting any offense or any consistency from their wings? Is that the biggest issue you find with this Kansas team right now, is that Rylan Griffin and AJ Storr just haven't been able to be, for any extended stretch of not just like the schedule, any extended stretch of play, it seems like, really help this team, and they've gotten a little too dependent on Dickinson and Mayo?
Yeah, I mean, I think big picture, like that's probably been what's gone most wrong for this group is, I think they needed 2 of the 3 perimeter transfer additions, the big ones, the between Mayo, Griffin, and Storr. Like 2 of those had to hit, and really just 1 has. So offensively, that's been an issue because they really needed solid, consistent production out of at least 2 of those guys. And then, defensively, I kind of thought they were starting to maybe lean into that a few weeks ago. And, there's been different stretches where like they put together 1 or 2 really, really awesome defensive games. And, it's helped their season long number look pretty good. Like if you go to KenPom, they're the 5th best defense in college basketball. But if I'm starting to list out who I think are the best defenses in college basketball, I'm probably not putting them at that spot. And I just don't think they have consistently been that enough where like that kind of has to be their calling card, because the offense is, as we've seen, is going to kind of come and go. But like effort and defense have to be like the 2 things add on. They haven't got to that point.
Sports talky, this question is going to come off as sounding, CJ. So I apologize in advance, but And I also, it's crazy to ask this question about a team with a guy like KJ Adams in it, who, like, you look at the dictionary definition of dog in him, and KJ Adams has always been that guy from the very beginning of his KU career. But it just doesn't feel like there's a lot of dog in this Kansas team otherwise. Is that a, I mean, again, I know how sports talky it sounds, but is it a fair description that maybe in that toughness department or that leadership department, this KU team is maybe lacking a bit, and maybe that's what accounts for their lack of energy in some games?
Yeah, I think it's fair that, like, when they face some adversity and when it starts kind of going south, they haven't had guys that just kind of, you know, put the kind of like, all right, this isn't going to happen. We're putting our foot down. Like, this is turning. You know, when it looks great, when things are going well for like Hunter Dickinson, Zeke Mayo, they can look awesome. But in games where it starts to kind of go south, like the offense, things like that, the result of the game maybe affect their energy level and their effort maybe more than it should.
CJ Moore is our guest, covers college basketball for The Athletic. You can follow him across social media at the handle CJ Moore Hoops, and he joins us every Thursday for the Big 12 basketball breakdown here on 580 Sports Talk. Houston still in the lead in the conference, 12-1. Arizona, of course, lost Tuesday night at Bramlage Coliseum to drop a game behind the Cougars at the top of the league. For that Arizona team in that game, I mean, you can point to their three-point shooting as being the reason why they weren't able to walk out of there with a win. But what are the vulnerabilities, I guess, for that Arizona team moving forward? Because I've been really impressed watching them. I like their size. Certainly in Love, they've got a All-American caliber player. They've got some wings who can score it a bit. What if you're looking for the vulnerabilities in that Arizona team, and maybe K-State was able to press on them a bit, what would they be?
Well, I'm first of all, I was pissed off because I didn't get to watch the game because I was in Columbia doing a story on Mizzou, and my ESPN Plus was not working.
Oh,
so,
no.
Gosh dang it, ESPN Plus. Come on.
They do it again. They strike again.
I couldn't. They strike again. So I couldn't get it pulled up on my computer. But, you know, I've watched this team enough to know. I think 3-point shooting is probably the biggest. Consistent 3-point shooting is the biggest weakness for the Wildcats. And, you know, you saw that come up in that game. Obviously, you gave the number. Now they've been able to kind of lean into their defense and, like, really, you know, that's helped them get out in transition. They're an excellent transition team. You know, they've become a better cutting team. They've kind of leaned more into the things that they're really good at. And, you know, Henry Visar has come alive, and that's been huge. So I think they kind of have a better understanding of who they are than what they had early in the year. But there are still going to be some games where they just don't shoot it very well. And, you know, that can cost you.
Have you come around on Texas Tech? I know early in the season you were a little skeptical that they were as good as the advanced metrics would suggest, but here they are. They're the only team with a win over Houston in league play, needed double overtime, but came away with a win over Arizona State last night. They're 2 games back of Houston, 10-3 in the Big 12, 19-5 overall. Why has it worked for this bunch under Grant McCasland?
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to be a believer in the preseason. Like, I had them probably ranked higher than anybody had them. You know, they had some slip ups early that kind of got you questioning them, but I think it's worked just because, you know, offensively they have about as much skill and a smart plan as anybody in the league. Like, their offense is really, really good. They've got shooting. They've got JT Toppin and Darian Williams can, you know, back guys down in the post. They've got good passers, Elijah Hawkins, Christian Anderson, the freshman's been terrific. So I think they got really good personnel that kind of fits how they want to play. Defensively, there's still reason to worry there. Like, I know it was a double overtime game, but you give up 106 to Arizona State. It's a little bit concerning, and that might be concerning for, like, the NCAA tournament. But I really like their talent and kind of how they put it together. And I think, you know, Grant's done a really good job of targeting the right guys in the portal. And, you know, the 2 teams he's built there at Texas Tech have been pretty smartly built.
Couple more questions for CJ Moore, talking Big 12 basketball here on 580 Sports Talk. CJ, huge game in the Big 12 on Saturday is in Tucson with Arizona playing host to Houston. What intrigues you the most about the way those two teams match up?
Well, I think we know how good Houston is defensively. Like I said, I think Arizona is really, really starting to figure out how good it can be defensively. I think that's going to be a game of just like athletes flying all over the place, high effort game. It's probably going to be played in like the 60s unless the pace can really, really get up and down, and maybe teams, getting some transition buckets off their defense. But I think it's going to be one of those games where you watch and you're like, holy crap, like these guys are just playing so freaking hard. And that's why they're near the top of the league in the standings. Like they what we talked about with Kansas not being able to sustain that effort, I think that's something that Houston always does, and this Arizona team is figuring out to do.
K-State and KU both go on the road to the Beehive State. I want to focus on K-State's matchup in Provo against BYU, a team who the metrics have always liked is a really good and prolific three-point shooting team. I haven't been able to really put my finger on BYU this year. I thought they started impressively. I know they've got some big-time talent. The Igor Demon kid at point guard is really, really good. But what do you make of this BYU team, and what will make them a tough out other than being at home for K-State on Saturday?
Yeah, Igor's super, super talented. I did a story on him early. I was, buying all the hype. He's honestly been disappointing and hasn't quite played to the level that you would have thought he might in the Big 12. Physicality and just being young is kind of bothered him. But they're a really good team. They stretch you out. They've got good shooters. They've got some good rollers, and they're big guys, both Trier and Kita, really put pressure on the rim in their pick and roll game. They're pretty hard to guard. You can score against them. But if you catch them on the wrong night, where like Richie Saunders is throwing in a bunch of threes, Trevin Nail, the freshman Kanan Catchings, like when he gets hot, he's 6'9", like he's a future NBA guy as a freshman. That's some days, he might not show up and may disappear, but when he gets hot, look out. So they're a tough team to play if they're making shots. And, for Kansas State, like that's a game where you just kind of got to lock in defensively and be really, really sound in your scout. And, if they can do that, I think they got a shot to probably go there and keep this thing going. Like, BYU, it's a hard place to play, but it's a winnable game.
CJ Moore covers college basketball for The Athletic. His Monday top 25 breakdowns are always a must-read. He's the best college basketball feature writer in America. Check out his piece on the St. Louis head coach Josh Schertz as well. It's a must-read this week. CJ, you do great work. We appreciate you coming on with us here on 580 Sports Talk. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
That is CJ Moore. We will take a quick break here on 580 Sports Talk. Come back, wrap up this 4 o'clock hour next. Thanks once again to CJ Moore from The Athletic for joining us, as he does every Thursday, for the Big 12 basketball breakdown here on 580 Sports Talk. Yeah, if you're an Athletic subscriber, if you're not, you ought to be, but if you're an Athletic subscriber, you ought to be reading CJ every week. Top 25 breakdown. I learned something new about college basketball every time I read the piece. So always worth checking out. And then, of course, I say it and I mean it. He's the best college basketball feature writer in America. You see long-form CJ Moore, you set aside the time, and you give that a read. Reporting from Nate Taylor and Cale Clinton of The Athletic, speaking of, regarding Travis Kelce, who was our subject at the top of the hour today, or the top of the show today. Quote, if Kelce chooses to retire, the Chiefs, as they head into an intriguing offseason, want to know of his decision around March 14th, according to a team source. Based on the deadline, the Chiefs are going to give Kelce a month to decide his future. And the Chiefs are hoping that Kelce decides to remain with the team through the 2025 season, which could be the last in his illustrious career. So Nate Taylor, he's tied in. If he says he's got a source with the Chiefs that says that, believe it. And that would make sense. I think that's a fair timeline to give the player. I think it's a fair timeline for the player to give the team. I said
that's right around the start of the league year, correct?
Yeah, right around the start of the league year.
I think that's a proper deadline as well.
Yeah, I think that's the that's a good. He sounded to me like
he sounded like he was done and that he was thinking, maybe do I have second thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's what he's waiting for. Like he's waiting to see if he has any second thoughts about not playing. Yeah. Like if he feels like he's going to miss it too much. And yeah, I wouldn't want to make that decision at a time when your emotions have spiked, like right after the Super Bowl. Like I wouldn't want to make that decision immediately.
On the contrary, not that you would have seen this because nobody watches the show. The facility on FS1 had Charles Menahue on today. He said, quote, we can't go out like that, man. I think Trav has a lot left. I think Trav is an extreme competitor. Going out like that, in my opinion, would not be something that he would do. I believe he will be back and give it one more go.
Interesting.
Not that anybody would have seen that.
No.
Nobody watches that show.
No.
I just saw it on the thing that is X.
Drive-by on the FS1 daytime programming. Wowzers. Anyway, we got one more hour of the show. We'll talk to Mitch Holthus. We'll do some headlines. Stay with us on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour of this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk coming your way this afternoon on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And we are on video. Greetings to our YouTube viewers. 580 Sports Talk is the channel. You can also watch the video on our Facebook page, WIBW News. Dan Lucero and Spencer Dupuis rocking with you for one more hour on this Thursday. Brendan Dworzinski is in Fort Smith, Arkansas, getting set for some Washburn basketball over on our sister station, your exclusive home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. Pregame at 5:15 and the tip-off at 5:30 from Fort Smith for the Washburn women. Then the men's game immediately follows. So it is the two of us, Brendan. Dave, I did it again, man. I called myself Spencer yesterday, and I guess I could have finished that sentence a little more gracefully. It's the two of us. Brendan not here, but Dan and Spencer are. I'm Dan. Jiminy Christmas, man. I baby brain fog so bad you wouldn't even believe it. Like, I won't get into the details of last night. Just know somebody didn't want to go to sleep. And it wasn't me and it wasn't my wife. We really wanted to go to sleep. Somebody in the Lucero home didn't want to go to sleep. And nothing wears you out faster than that. So, yeah, eventually I've called myself by everybody else's name. So now nobody feels left out. But I am Dan Lucero, and that is Spencer Dupuis. We've got one more hour, 580 Sports Talk coming your way. Love to hear from you, 785-272-9429. You can also join us in the comments on the chat on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, the YouTube channel. You can watch the program and interact with us and your fellow listeners. Right now, the topic is camping. Spencer, you ever been camping?
Yes. Multiple times, multiple different ways.
What's your favorite place to go camping?
Where we used to have my family reunion every year, Cowan's Gap State Park in Pennsylvania.
Okay, whereabouts in Pennsylvania? Like,
it's like south, middle, central. It's like
south,
right above. It's like 2 hours from where I grew up.
Okay, central PA.
Yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. I grew up in the suburbs. We were not a very outdoorsy family. I've actually never been camping. That's I know, personality flaw maybe. Some might see it as, but
I say different types of camping because that camping was cabin camping.
Okay.
I have been tent camping before when I was in Cub Scouts.
Oh, you were a Cub Scout.
Yes.
How am I just now learning this information?
I never became a Boy Scout.
Okay.
So I kind of dipped out.
I was going to say, you ran into a knot you couldn't tie, or
I just lost interest.
That's fair. That happens. That happens sometimes. I didn't know you. How long did you do Cub Scouts?
Like all of elementary school.
Ah, man. You still got to still know all the knots?
No.
Okay. You got to practice them, I'm sure, to keep your game up. But no, you never know where the topics might go on the YouTube chat. Mark B is in asking me if my son is teething, and that is why. Partially, yes. That is part of why last night was a tough one at the Lucero house. But yeah, he's tooth number 8 coming in. We were Brendan and I were talking about this. Yeah, already up to tooth number 8, about to pop through. Unbelievable.
Just wait till they start popping out.
Yeah, well, you got to figure out the tooth fairy. Got to step up my tooth fairy game, but that's still a ways away. Thankfully, that's it is both far away and will be here before I know it. There's no doubt about that. Still to come on 580 Sports Talk, the great Mitch Holthus will join us for a final time this Chiefs season. Chat with him in about 15 minutes. Get Mitch's final thoughts on the disappointment of Super Bowl 59 and some reflections on the 2024 Chiefs season, and maybe a bit of a look ahead to 2025. We'll hear from Mitch coming up later on this hour. Also, Travis Kelce's comments got me thinking about the Chiefs and motivation, the team as a whole, and what their motivation will be moving forward, and how hard it is sometimes for guys who've been to the mountaintop to want to get back, and how there is at least one guy on the roster, one very obvious guy who is never going to lack for the motivation to get to the top. We'll get to that a little bit later on in the show today. But we will start this 5 o'clock hour, as we start every 5 o'clock hour, with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We will begin today with a headline from KStateSports.com. LePack to coach K-State's offensive line, little to assist. K-State has found their new offensive line coach, Brian LePack, who has been the tight ends coach for the last 3 seasons. Drew Little, who was an offensive assistant last year and has spent 7 years on the K-State staff over 2 different stints, has been named the assistant offensive line coach. K-State was looking to fill the vacancy left by Connor Riley, who departed for the Dallas Cowboys. Matt Wells is taking over as the full-time offensive coordinator. No co-offensive coordinator. It's all Matt Wells' show. And LePack, who you talk to people around K-State, they feel like this guy is a star in the coaching industry, like a future star. And they are very high on him and how he interacts with players. Obviously, he's done a tremendous job coaching the tight ends each of the last 3 seasons. Ben Sinnott was a 2 Big 12 player. Garrett Oakley and Will Swanson each picked up all Big 12 honors this past season. First time since 1997 that K-State had 2 tight ends make all Big 12. And, of course, K-State's tight ends had a nation-leading 13 touchdown receptions in 2024. So did a great job with that group, and now he'll move to working with the offensive linemen. And I think that LePack is a guy who's going places and a real star, real standout on this K-State staff.
Now they'll just need to hire a tight ends coach.
Yeah.
Now they don't have a tight ends coach.
Yeah, they'll have to move on up. That's for sure.
It's funny because like the way this has worked is like they move a guy into a spot and move another guy into a spot. Then now the train's over, they're probably going to have to hire from outside for this one, is what I've seen online.
Very well could be the case, but they've been able to do a really nice job retaining.
Yeah.
Some of their assistants they're really high on. Brian LePack, definitely one of them. So that's our first headline today. Spencer, first headline.
Yes, very shocking, right? This headline is about to be very shocking to everyone listening. We have informed Aaron Rodgers that we will be moving in a different direction at quarterback from the New York Giants on their social media platforms.
Jets,
sorry.
I'm sure the Giants probably inform Aaron Rodgers that they're moving in a different direction at quarterback. So I think this is it. I think that Aaron Rodgers is going to very quickly discover on the open market that there is not a demand for his services, and all that is wrapped up in the Aaron Rodgers experience. I think he's also not going to let himself just sit out there as a free agent. He's going to gauge the waters. He's going to dip a toe in. He's going to find out there's nobody really into the idea of him being their starting quarterback and like shadow GM in 2025.
Yeah.
And then he's going to say something like, you know, he's going to do the, you can't fire me, I quit. He's going to pull the, actually, I will be taking a year to go camping in Bhutan and discover some new natural cures for eczema.
Do you think there's any way?
That was like a Mad Lib, by the way. I am going to, the Aaron Rodgers Mad Lib. I am going to outdoor activity in foreign country to discover new medical advances.
Yeah. But if he actually does say, like, call it quits, do you think he signs a 1-day contract with the Packers?
I don't think he has any interest in the ceremonial stuff. I don't think so. I think that when he's done, he's done. But I also don't think he's going to, like, retire. I really do. I think he's going to
never officially put in the papers.
Yeah, he's going to, like, going out on your own terms is something that is, I think, valuable to players, particularly of Rodgers' stature. And going out on his own terms at this point for Aaron Rodgers would be the, you can't fire me, I quit. Would be the, oh, actually, I'm not going to play in 2025, but it's not because nobody wants me. It's because I, Aaron Rodgers, have bigger fish to fry. Backpacking through the wilds of Kazakhstan to discover new advances in treatment for whatever that one is the commercial where they got the curved carrots and it's supposed to represent something else. He's going to go find a cure for that.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Something's curvature. It's something curvature. You know the ones. They run those commercials like after 9 o'clock on ESPN2, like during college basketball games. Like, man, they think people who already watch college basketball got a bend down there, or man. Yeah, I think it's done. I just don't think anybody wants the full Aaron Rodgers. And also, he looked finished. Like, it looked like it was completely gone.
Yeah.
And I mean, Rodgers himself was the one that said, hey, I've actually figured out a way to come back even faster from torn Achilles. I might even play at the end of 2024. Remember that? Remember when they put him back on the active roster?
And there was a chance he could play against Washington? Yes, I remember that.
Had to cut a guy from the 53-man roster for Aaron Rodgers' vanity project at the end of 2023. And then last year, he was able to play and looked terrible. Looked like a 41-year-old coming off of a torn Achilles.
Yeah.
And then the Jets sat down with him and said, hey, look, you're going to come back. You're not doing this McAfee nonsense. You're not going on TV every week to talk. That was the other thing that was really funny about Aaron Rodgers. The whole, I mean, a guy who's been talking out of both sides of his mouth now for the better part of the end of his career. The whole, on one hand, the thing that we need to do is eliminate distractions. Also, I'm thinking about running for vice president.
Yes, I'm just going to talk about random things and conspiracy theories, not football on the show.
But remember, no distractions.
That will entertain it too.
No distractions. I do. I think that's it. I think that's it for Aaron Rodgers. It's been a great career. One of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen. Only one Super Bowl appearance.
Do you think that the end of his career smolders the bigger picture?
Yes, I do. Like, not enough to keep him out of the Hall of Fame first ballot, or it's not like as bad as Brett Favre has tarnished his legacy. Peyronie's disease. Shout out to the 785. That was what I was looking for on the text line. Peyronie's disease. That's what he's going to do. He's going to find a cure for Peyronie's disease. That's the one I was looking for. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Texter, for the 785. No, it's Dupirin's conjecture or something, the one with the crooked hand, where you can't put your hand down flat on the table, and you gotta go like do rehab for that. Maybe he'll find a cure for that. I don't know. I don't know what Aaron Rodgers is going to do. It's just not going to be play football because nobody wants to deal with Aaron Rodgers anymore. You could either easily deal with him when you thought he could win you a Super Bowl. Nobody thinks he can do that now, and that's where it's going to end for him. But to go back to your question, no, I think that he will be remembered more for the heights he hit as a player, all the MVPs. And I think the bigger ding on his career won't be the way it ended, because it doesn't end well for most great quarterbacks. It usually ends poorly, as far as their performance goes. And it's ended poorly for a lot of all-time greats. But I think the bigger knock on his legacy will be the fact that he only went to one Super Bowl. That'll be the thing that is the first in line. Let's do another couple of headlines from Boston.com. We talked about this earlier. Red Sox reportedly signed Alex Bregman to 3-year, $120 million contract. The last of the marquee names who were free agents is off the board, and Alex Bregman will play the next 3 years in Boston. The Red Sox are reportedly going to make him a second baseman and leave Rafael Devers at third, which Alex Bregman won a Gold Glove at third base last year. Rafael Devers, if there were an Iron Glove, he might win that award. So they're making a huge mistake, but they're getting a good hitter, a guy who's been a really good player over the course of his career 132 OPS plus, 191 career home runs. Of course, spent his first 9 seasons all with the Houston Astros, 2-time All-Star, a Silver Slugger winner in 2019, a Gold Glover last year, and a 2-time World Series champion as well. Bregman turns 31 at the end of March. He'll spend the next 3 years in Boston unless he chooses to opt out after year 1 or year 2 of his contract, which he could. There are also deferrals on the contract that take the actual value down to something like $30 million a year, not the full 40, the 3 years, $120 million. But Alex Bregman to the Red Sox, and I think the Red Sox are a playoff team, to be honest with you, in 2024. I really like, or 2025. I really like what the Red Sox have done this offseason. They have added Bregman to their lineup, even if they think they're going to play him at the wrong position. They have added Garrett Crochet, a bona fide ace, at the top of their rotation. They've fortified the bullpen a little bit. Aroldis Chapman can still help. Walker Buehler's a big addition to their starting rotation as well. I think this is a team that probably earns one of the 6 playoff spots in the American League. I think they've upgraded the roster from their 81-win team last year. Are you one of those that like to boo the Astros, keep giving the Astros garbage for the garbage can thing? Or are you good with all that because your team beat them in the World Series, so you're not too worried about it?
Bingo.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
As I was saying out, I was thinking, you know what? You know who wouldn't care a lick about that? Team who beat them for their only World Series title.
Yeah.
Fans of the team who beat them. Yeah. Fans of the teams that didn't beat them are still salty. They're going to boo Carlos Correa in Los Angeles forever and always. But Washington's like, well, we beat them. Not that big a deal.
I mean, I think that was right before it all came out, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember Nats GM Mike Rizzo saying that he had gotten word from multiple people. He's like, hey, watch out for this. This might be happening.
Yeah.
And then everything unraveled from there.
We got one more headline. Spencer,
Yes, from ESPN.com. Canada tops Sweden in thrilling Four Nations opener. Mitch Marner's overtime goal gave them the winner. Sidney Crosby got the sellout crowd going with a no-look pass to Nathan McKinnon for the slam dunk power play in the first minute of the game.
So United States plays Finland tonight. The Four Nations tournament essentially replaced the All-Star break in the NHL.
Which is weird because then they just announced the World Cup of Hockey is coming back too, but they're also allowed to play in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah, like the NHL wants to put its best players on display in international competition, and this is a short international competition featuring the best players from the United States, Canada, Sweden, and Finland. I know you're a hockey guy, Spencer. Any interest in this, or because the Russians can't be in it and Ovechkin can't be in it, you're iffy on it?
Well, I would be interested in Canada's team if they put one of the best goaltenders in the NHL on that team. But
they got bum-ass Jordan Binnington instead.
Apparently, the Vegas Golden Knights coach, who is the coach of Canada, I believe, said, no, I don't want to deal with him because apparently they didn't like each other in Vegas when Logan Thompson was there.
Now, I would be inclined to root for Canada because they got McKinnon, Makar, and Taves from the Avs, but I can't root for Jordan Binnington. What a chump.
I can't root for Sidney Crosby.
Chump and a half. No, I understand that too.
Crybaby Crosby.
He's going to get traded to the Avs. You watch. Let's take a break. Mitch Holthus joins us next on 580 Sports Talk. We are to be joined momentarily by the great Mitch Holthus, voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He's been joining us throughout the NFL season, a courtesy of our friends at Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union, where you can contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Kristen Ambergy about the credit union advantage of getting your first or next home loan. We are out to Mitch and hoping to connect with him very soon. And we will talk about the aftermath of the Super Bowl 59 loss by the Chiefs at the hands of the Eagles and reflect on what this 2024 season has been for the Chiefs. While we're out to Mitch, tell you that we're going to talk a little bit more Chiefs as we go along later on this hour, final hour of the day here on 580 Sports Talk. And then also on the show, be listening. I've got a 4-pack of tickets for K-State women's basketball against UCF that I want to give away, and I want to do it today. So be listening for your cue to call. Obviously, not a huge window of time, but we'll give away a 4-pack of tickets to K-State versus UCF on Saturday afternoon at Bramlage Coliseum. K-State women in action, and give away a family 4-pack to go to that game if you're listening. And I'll give you your cue to call. Still hopeful that we can connect with Mitch Holthus. We've missed him the first time around, but we'll keep trying him. While we got a chance here, a question from the YouTube chat. And I think you never know where the YouTube chat is going to go and where they're going to go amongst themselves. But Jason has asked who your favorite Marvel character is. Or that is the question from the chat. Who is your favorite Marvel character? Spencer, do you have a favorite Marvel character?
Captain America.
Okay.
That's a cop-out, but...
Nah, I don't think that's a cop-out. I think, Captain America's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the Iron Man movies. I enjoyed the Iron Man movies. I'll say that. I'll go Tony Stark. I liked the Iron Man movies quite a bit. Those were favorites of mine. So that's our answer to that question, Jason. We might end up doing a little AMA if we can't get a hold of Mitch Holthus here. Jason also asked if my Rockies are going to be better than last year. They can't be much worse, Jason, is all I'll say. They cannot possibly be much worse than they were last year when they lost 101 games. So God willing, they'll be a little better, but not much. Like they're still gonna be trash. Don't get me wrong. So they're gonna be pretty lousy, but that's why I'm looking forward to the Royals. Give me some good baseball to watch. I like baseball too much to let my favorite team being booty cheeks ruin my season. So we'll see if thought we had Mitch there for a second, and maybe we don't. We'll try him right back. Again, this is when Mitch Holthus joins us every Thursday throughout the NFL season. So obviously it's going to be our last time with Mitch. We're looking forward to getting him on the line here in just a moment. And we'll ask him the question that I think is an interesting question to ask about the motivation for the Chiefs. It's something that Travis Kelce's spoken about directly in his comments about taking some time to think about, whether or not he's going to play again in 2025, and talked about the need to find the motivation. And that can be really difficult, especially when you've accomplished as much as Travis Kelce in particular has accomplished. But for the rest of the Chiefs, can they summon that motivation into 2025? Because there's no question that Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to. Like that's how Mahomes is wired. That's how he'll always be wired. He will never lack for motivation, and most teams take their cue from their leader. And I am sure that the Chiefs, by and large, will take their cues from Patrick Mahomes. But the question is about other players who've maybe gotten a ring or two and missed this opportunity to three-peat. What is their motivation? What will be the carrot at the end of the stick for them? Because sometimes you get to the top of the mountain and you enjoy life there. But then when you're knocked from the perch, it's hard to decide you want to put in all of the effort to get back up, to climb that mountain, push that boulder up that hill again. That can be difficult. That would be really difficult for some guys to find. It's why it's so hard to win multiple championships. It's why so few teams in history have managed to do it. It's why what the Chiefs have done has been so special, has been so unique in the history of the NFL. And look, as long as you've got Patrick Mahomes, as long as you've got Andy Reid, you walk in the door of the training facility, you got to feel like winning a championship is a distinct possibility, not a remote one. You got to believe in your ability to get to the mountaintop with Patrick Mahomes under center. But how motivated are the guys on this roster going to be, particularly maybe some of the ones that have their best football behind them in their career? How motivated will they be to get back to a place? Can they summon the same kind of motivation to get back to that place? That will be the challenge, is digging deep enough to find similar motivation, a similar drive, a similar focus to what they had this last year when there was so much history at stake. There's a little less history at stake next year. There's a little less, just a little bit less on the line for the Chiefs. But again, most teams take on the personalities of their best players and their biggest leaders. And particularly if Travis Kelce does retire, that becomes Patrick Mahomes' locker room, maybe in a way it never has been if Kelce's not there. And if they take on the personality of Patrick Mahomes, that will be a very unsatisfied football team that gets going in 2025. We're going to take another time out. We'll hope to connect with Mitch Holthus. If we don't, we'll talk about some more Chief stuff and some other discussion as we go along here on this Thursday edition of 580 Sports Talk. 5:36 on 580 Sports Talk. Dan and Spencer with you. Still out to Mitch Holthus. Hopeful we can connect with Mitch at some point before the end of the program today. Early in the first quarter in Fort Smith, Arkansas, the hosts Fort Smith leading Washburn's women 9-7. Midway through the first quarter, that game is just underway. You can catch the action with our Brendan Dworzinski over on our sister station, your home for the Ichabod's, Country 106.9. Men's game to follow. Men to extend their winning streak and stay unbeaten in the MIAA. Go to 23, I believe it's 23-0.
That would be what it would be.
Yeah, if they win tonight, they would be 23-0. Certainly would favor them over the Lions tonight. No easy road games in the MIAA. Catch the action with Brendan tonight over on Country 106.9. We never got around to doing it in the first hour. We usually do it in the first hour of shows and on Thursdays. So let's just do it now while we're waiting and hoping that Mitch Holthus can join us. Let's play a little either or over under, shall we, Spencer? We'll take our cue from Vance in the YouTube chat. The Royals over under for wins, 87.5. Over or under?
What were they last year?
86-76.
I think I'm going to take the under.
Yeah, I'm on the under too. The reason that I'm on the under for 87.5 is they won 86 last year with Bobby Witt Jr. having one of the greatest seasons ever and with unparalleled health from their starting pitching. And I would not bet on, what was it? How many starts did the non-starting six, if you count Marsh and Lorenzen as one guy? There were only 5 starts made outside the starting rotation all season. Daniel Lynch made 3 starts. Dan Altavilla made a start as a opener, and Jonathan Bolin made a start. That was it. Lugo took his turn every time. Reagans took his turn every time. Singer took his turn every time. Waka missed like 3 or 4 starts with an injury.
Yeah.
That's incredible good fortune. And Bobby Witt Jr. was a 9.5 win player, according to Baseball Reference's WAR calculations. Like I said, Bobby Witt Jr. could be a 7.5 win player in 2025, and it would still make him a top 5 player in baseball, and it might win him the MVP.
Yeah.
But it's also 2 wins shy of the level that he got to the year before. So it's I understand how it sounds to say, well, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to step back a little bit. I'm not saying that because I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to get worse at baseball. I'm saying that because he was unbelievable last year. He had a once-in-a-generation type of season.
And I think pitchers, they know, they learn, right?
Yeah.
The analytics of baseball just gets bigger and bigger every year. The pitchers use it, how they go against somebody. And also, to your point about the offense, I think you can expect as much offense. I don't know if I should say this the way I'm trying to say it. You got a lot of offense from Salvador Perez.
Yeah.
As the aging Perez, along with Freddie Fermin. I don't know if you can expect Freddie Fermin to hit that well with the opportunities that he gets during the season.
He did slow down in December quite a bit, to the point where he was actually below average according to OPS plus. He was still a 3-win player according to Baseball Reference's WAR because he's really good behind the plate. I think we're going to see a lot more of Freddie behind the plate and a little more Sal at first or DHing this coming year. I do. I think we'll see a little bit more of that playing time balance shift towards Fermin behind the plate. But yeah, I think a lot went right to get them to 86 wins. And I don't think they upgraded meaningfully enough where they needed to get back there, unless the same 95th percentile outcomes for Bobby Witt Jr. and for the pitching staff's health happen again. That doesn't mean I don't think they're a contender or that they can't win the Central. They would not be sitting here today, my pick to win the Central. I would pick the Tigers.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning toward the Tigers over the Guardians. The Guardians, I think they lost a little too much, and I actually really like what the Tigers did. They brought Jack Flaherty back. I think that helps their starting rotation, which was a bit of a mess towards the end of last year. But they'll have a little bit more depth in the bullpen with guys like Tommy Kahnle. I think Gleyber Torres, a veteran bat, will help their lineup a bit. And they got a bunch of young guys that are still capable, like Riley Green was an all-star last year, could get better. Colt Keith, Jace Young could all get better. They got Jackson Jobe coming up, might be the best pitching prospect in baseball. I right now, as I'm sitting here, I would say the Tigers will win the Central. I would say the Tigers will win the Central, and I have the Guardians and Royals and Twins kind of battling it out for second, third, and fourth.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you right now. I think my opinion of the Royals might change if they do make a late signing for somebody or a trade. Or
if MJ Melendez is a dude.
Yes.
Like we talked about this. We did this exercise.
Right now, I'm status quo with below 87 wins.
So once upon a time, there was a talented left-handed bat for the Royals, and in his third full major league season, he was stinky. He, in 500 plate appearances, hit .212 with a .632 OPS. He was not good. 21 doubles, 15 home runs, struck out more than you like. He was not particularly good. The year following, he was an all-star, and he hit .284, and he hit 22 dingers and 34 doubles and drove in 82, and that was basically the hitter he was until he got into his early 30s and wore down. That was Mike Moustakas. If there's a similar breakout for MJ Melendez, if he can get into the 20s in home runs, if he can get his walks and on-base percentage back up, I really think that, like I said, I thought the Royals were a leadoff hitter and a five-hole hitter away. And they got the leadoff hitter, and I think that's a meaningful upgrade in Jonathan India, but they're still short that five-hole hitter. If MJ Melendez becomes that five-hole hitter, then I think that will be something that could really lift the Royals and keep them in the mix atop the AL Central. Because nobody else, like, I do like what I said, what the Tigers did, but Gleyber Torres and Jack Flaherty are not like holy bleep moves. Like, those help your team, but those aren't moves that, like, they don't put the Tigers in like 90 win range. The Guardians didn't do anything. The Twins didn't do anything to put them in that range. So, like, why not the Royals? Honestly, they're as good a bet as anybody in the Central. My lean is with Detroit just because I think they're really young and they've got a little bit more room for growth last year over their result than the Royals do. But a lot can change between now and March 27th and opening day, that's for sure. You got a either or over-under?
Ooh, I had the number. I just lost it because we're talking Royals baseball.
No worries.
I was going to give you Kansas win total going the rest of the way until the Big 12 tournament.
Kansas men's basketball?
Yes.
Okay.
They have 7 games left.
Yep.
And, oh, wait, no, that's wrong of me. I somehow had Kansas State on there. I meant Kansas. Here we go. I'm pulling it up as we speak. They, too, have 7 games left. They have to take on Texas Tech, Arizona, Houston. Those are the ranked teams. They play Utah, BYU, Oklahoma State, Colorado of the other teams. 6 games left.
7
games left. Over under 3.5 wins.
Oh, they'll clear that, no problem. They'll win their next 4. I don't think Utah, BYU, Oklahoma State, or Colorado should offer much resistance. BYU's the scariest game there because it's on the road, but they should win the next 4, no problem. And then they don't lose on Senior Day at Allen Fieldhouse. I don't know if you know this or anything, but they don't lose on Senior Day at Allen Fieldhouse. It doesn't happen very often. Texas nuked them a couple years ago on Senior Day. Very rare for them to lose on Senior Day at Allen Fieldhouse. So they'll find a way past Arizona. Then they'll get one of the Texas Tech or Houston games. So I think they'll go 5-2 down the stretch. So yeah, I'll go over that 3.5. Were you thinking they might limp into the house a little bit?
Yeah, I'm not liking what they should have won by 15 to 20 points against Colorado. And they just didn't do it for me. Like, I think that game should have been a 15 to 20 point game. Instead, it was a 12-point win. And that was at the end of the game. I don't know. And then you lose to K-State at the Octagon of Doom. Well, that's going to happen. They beat Iowa State, obviously, but I think that loss to Baylor hurts, obviously.
Yeah,
and then the double overtime loss at home against Iowa State really hurt too.
Houston, you mean? That was Houston. They lost to at home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Like I've told you, I want to believe in this team's ceiling, but I can't get there if the Wings don't start giving them some kind of scoring punch consistently. And more than scoring punch, they need to be all-around players. But, like, Rylan Griffin is in a wicked shooting slump right now. He can shoot his way out of that slump. Maybe that's the answer. And he gives them enough of that shooting to kind of space the floor. And then you see a little bit more room for Dickinson to operate in the post, a little bit more space for Zeke Mayo to drive and create, a little bit more space for Harris to create, and then maybe things start to make a little bit more sense around that. But something has to happen from that. I guess you'd call it the 3, that small forward position. They've got to get something. And that's where I have some concerns is, are they going to find that level of consistency? I may have misspoken. I thought that Texas had beaten KU on Senior Day at Allen Fieldhouse. I think that might be wrong. They have a texture for 785, says they haven't lost a senior night game since 1983. I know it had gone back a ways. I could have sworn I remembered a late season loss to Texas a couple of years ago, and maybe that was not on Senior Day, and I apologize that I misspoke. I conflated two things in my head. I've also recently conflated my own name, so I hope you can forgive a bit of a misstep there. Let's see. Let's do another either or over under here. Either or over under. Let's do a golf either or over under.
Okay.
You've got to do one of two things. You're not a avid golfer, but you've played golf?
Yes, I might be a more avid golfer now that I can see my golf clubs every day. If I wanted to.
You got your sticks? Okay.
No, I have room for them.
So give me an either or over under.
Okay.
This is your either or here. You've got to do one of these two things for $10,000. Split the fairway with your driver or make a 5-foot putt for 10 grand. Which one would you rather do? Which would you have more? What do you have more faith in?
Oof, of the putt, 100%.
The putt?
Yes.
Even the 5-footer?
I'm better on the greens,
okay,
than I am in the fairways. We'll just leave it at that.
Maybe we should be a scramble team then, because I'm a nightmare around the greens. I can never get the putter dialed in. It always takes me all year to get where I feel like I can putt, and then it's time to put the sticks up.
I'm bad at figuring out the great angle to go when we're hitting off the tee.
Okay.
So when I hit off the tee, I'm thinking I'm going one way, and then my body decides to move the club a different way as I'm making the swing.
That's tough.
And all of a sudden, I'm the one specific. I was doing a charity tournament a couple of years ago. It's hard to show people that it turned ever so slightly and then went around like a forest, like a little treat area.
Okay.
And I was trying to angle it to where I could split and be right along that line and get past it. Nope. I went right into the forest.
Ugh.
And beyond the forest, actually.
Oh, no.
Yes, into the little creek.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Not a fun day.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like much fun. It was the regular season finale that KU lost to Texas in 2023. It was not Senior Day. They beat Texas Tech on Senior Day that year. That is where my mistake was. I regret the error my first. Obviously not my first. I've been making them like crazy left and right. Anyway, whether you're good with the driver or the putter, it's going to be golf season eventually after this cold weather clears out. And you're going to want to be a Great Life Topeka member, because Great Life Golf members get great perks like free greens fees. And if you're an all-inclusive member, free range buckets, free bays at Top City Golf North, free carts, and 5 great golf courses from which to choose here in the Topeka area. It's all worth it to become a member. So go to greatlifetopeka.com, give them a visit, and give us a call right now, 785-272-9429, 785-272-9429. I'll take caller number 2, give you a 4-pack of tickets to see the K-State women take on UCF Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. at Bramlage Coliseum. Caller number 2 gets the tickets, 785-272-9429. We're back to wrap up 580 Sports Talk after this. Final word time on 580 Sports Talk. Spencer Dupuis, what you got?
I will be away from the show tomorrow. I am getting ready to move, and I've never been as stressed as ever because it's supposed to snow again on Saturday, the day I'm actually moving. And I don't think me driving a U-Haul and snow could mix very well.
Well, the good news is you don't have to drive it far, right? Like,
yeah, it's only 15 minutes, but
first time I ever drove a U-Haul myself, I had to drive through Wind River Canyon in Wyoming, coming from Wyoming to Nebraska. Let me tell you how much fun that wasn't. So, at least it was sunny that day.
Yeah, I'm just more worried because I got to drive through town to get up there because we're
Right.
picking up our new couch.
Sure.
So then I'm like, I'm driving more than just on 470, 70 to 75.
Here's
That'd be pretty easy.
here's the best tip I got for you. Just
All
go
right.
slow.
Yeah.
Go slow.
I mean, you can only go so fast in those kind of vehicles.
No.
Anyway.
You'll be fine. You'll figure it out. You just gotta go slow.
Yeah. I'll be
Anyhow,
back Tuesday.
final word for me today. I really wish the Royals had added one more bat this offseason. The pickings are so slim. There's really nobody they could add that I think would be a big value addition because all of the best bats can't really play positions anymore other than DH. And the Royals don't need a DH because Salvador Perez and Vinny Pasquantino and Freddie Fermin have that handled just fine. So unfortunate, but that's where the Royals stand. They need a breakout from a corner bat in the organization. We're back tomorrow from 3 until 5:30. For Spencer, I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.